I never thought the person who would break me would be my own son. It happened on a cold Sunday morning, the kind where the house feels too big and too quiet. I had just finished making tea when I heard my children arguing in the living room. At first, I smiled, thinking it was something silly, like who borrowed whose charger again. But then I heard my son's voice, sharp, cold, and shaking with anger. "Why is he still here?" he snapped. My hand froze around the teacup. Then my daughter whispered, "Lower your voice. He'll hear you." That whisper cut deeper than a shout. I stepped closer, my heart pounding, and then I heard it. The sentence that shattered everything I believed about my family and the love I had given them. "Dad's going to die lonely anyway." My son said, "Let him. We just need him to sign the property papers before he goes." My breath left my body, my own son, planning my loneliness, planning my end. Planning to strip me of everything I had worked for all while I was still alive, walking, breathing, cooking in that same house. It wasn't just betrayal, it was humiliation, it was the sound of my heart cracking. My daughter didn't defend me, she didn't even hesitate. She simply sighed and said, "Fine, let the lawyer come tomorrow, we'll make him sign." Make him sign as if I was a burden, as if I was already gone. As if I was a problem to solve, not a father to love. I stepped back silently, gripping the wall so I wouldn't fall. The house was no longer a home. It was a trap. A place where my own children were plotting against me. I didn't cry. Instead, a strange calm filled me, because in that moment, I realized something they didn't. I wasn't as powerless as they thought, and my fortune, the one they were so hungry for, was far larger, far more complex, and far more protected than they could ever imagine. They believed I would die lonely, but I was about to surround myself with something far better than greedy children. I was about to surround myself with my fortune and leave them with nothing but the consequences of their own cruelty. And that was just the beginning. I used to believe families drift apart slowly, quietly, like clouds shifting in the sky, but mine changed fast, so fast that I didn't even realize how far they'd gone until it was almost too late. It began subtly. My son, Amir, stopped sitting with me for breakfast. At first, I thought he was busy. Everyone gets busy. But then he stopped knocking on my room door in the evenings. He used to sit with me and watch the news or talk about business ideas he was excited about. Now he walked past me like I was a piece of furniture that got in his way. My daughter, Sana, who used to hug me every time she entered the house, now only gave a small nod from across the room. Her smiles faded. Her visits became shorter, her conversations became colder. I kept blaming life, stress, marriage, work, but deep inside a quiet discomfort grew. Then came the first real sign. Amir's wife, Iram. She was different from the beginning. Sharp, tongued, always judging, always calculating. She smiled, but her eyes never did. She started visiting more often, walking around my house like she owned it, rearranging things without asking, telling me I should modernize, or leave these responsibilities to the younger generation. One day, I heard her whisper to Amir in the hallway, "Your father holds everything, the house, the land, the shares. If he doesn't divide it soon, you'll be stuck waiting forever." Amir didn't disagree. He didn't defend me. He didn't say, "He's my father." He only sighed. That sigh felt like a warning. Sana changed too. Her husband, Farhan, a man whose only strength was complaining, kept telling her, "Your brother will take everything if you don't speak up." I saw the shift in her eyes, the worry, the jealousy, the fear of being left out. My children weren't drifting, they were being pulled by their spouses, pulled by greed, and then the distance became intentional. Family dinners canceled, weekend visits too busy, phone calls, sorry, later. Affection gone. It felt like they were waiting for something, or preparing for something. And then one evening, as I walked toward the living room, I heard a tense, hurried whisper behind a half-closed door. I slowed my steps, listening carefully. Amir's voice, low, urgent. "Just wait. He'll have to agree soon." Agree to what? I leaned closer, and the next words made my heart skip. That moment was the first real crack. But much bigger fractures were coming. The phone call I overheard wasn't long, but it was enough to plant fear deep in my chest. Amir said, "Don't worry. Once the papers are ready, he'll sign. He's getting older. He won't argue. Papers." What papers? I wanted to walk in, confront him, shake the truth out of him. But something stopped me. A strange instinct whispered, "Wait. Watch." A week later, we had a family dinner, our first in months. I should have been happy, but something felt off from the moment they walked in. The energy was stiff almost. Rehearsed. Iram walked in first, perfume strong and smile stronger. "Uncle," she said, as if I wasn't her father-in-law. Farhan came right after, mumbling a forced "Assalamu alaikum," while his eyes scanned the living room like he was measuring what could be his. Sana barely looked at me. Amir looked tired or guilty. Or both. We sat at the table. Silence stretched across like a thick rope. Then the comments began. Iram laughed and said, "Uncle, houses this old are hard to maintain. You should think about passing responsibilities to the younger ones." Younger ones. She meant Amir. Farhan chimed in, "And all that land. It's too much for one man. Dividing it now would make everyone's life easier." Everyone, not me. Then Amir looked up from his plate and said casually, "Dad, maybe we should talk about the future, about arrangements. That word felt like an icy hand closing around my throat. I tried to keep calm. What arrangements? Suddenly, the room shifted. Everyone exchanged quick glances. "We'll discuss it later," Amir said, his voice stiff. The rest of the dinner was a blur of indirect insults, hints about my age, reminders of my limitations, and thinly veiled comments about what would happen after. I sat there, eating quietly, feeling like a guest. No, an obstacle. In my own home. But the biggest shock came after dinner. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from my longtime lawyer, Mr. Rashid. "I need to speak with you urgently, not on call, in person." Urgently? Why? I looked up from my phone and saw Amir watching me. Not with love, not with concern, but with fear, as if he already knew why the lawyer was contacting me. The lawyer's second message came only seconds after the first. "Do not sign anything they give you. Call me tomorrow morning." And my pulse kicked. What were they planning? What papers? When I returned to the living room, Amir and Sana were standing close, whispering. Their spouses had stepped outside. They went silent as soon as they saw me. The tension was sharp enough to slice through the air. I acted normal, sat down, turned on the TV, pretended not to sense the storm forming behind their eyes. That night, I tried to sleep, but something kept me awake, a heaviness in my chest, a warning in my gut. So I walked to the kitchen to drink water. That's when I heard it. Voices, my children, my blood. They were in the living room, unaware that I was awake. Amir's voice was cold, frustrated. He has to sign the property transfer soon. I can't wait forever. Sana whispered, "He won't just agree. You know, Dad." Amir scoffed, "Then we'll make him. I don't care how. Make me." My hands shook around the glass. Then came the killer blow. The line that tore the ground under my feet and the world above my head. Amir said, "Dad's going to die lonely anyway. Let him. We just need the papers before that." Die lonely. My own son declared my loneliness as if it were already written. Sana didn't gasp or protest. She didn't defend me or scold him. She simply said, "Fine. Call the lawyer tomorrow. We'll make him sign. Make me." They spoke like I was baggage, a problem, a dying tree they just needed to chop down. I stood there, hidden behind the wall, my heart pounding, but my mind suddenly clear. They thought I would break. They thought I would surrender. They thought I was alone, but they didn't know one thing. I had a lawyer, too, one they didn't even know about, a secret lawyer who knew everything about my will, and about the assets I never told my children existed. I pulled out my phone with trembling hands and dialed him. He answered with a single sentence, "It's time we protect you, and your fortune." And with that, the betrayal was no longer a mystery. It was a war. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. My eyes burned from the lack of sleep, but my mind was sharp, sharper than it had been in years. Betrayal has a strange way of clearing the fog around your life. Suddenly, everything becomes visible, even the things you refused to see before. I walked into the kitchen, pretending nothing happened. Amir was already there, scrolling through his phone. He didn't look up, didn't say salam, didn't even acknowledge my presence, and that hurt in ways I can't explain. A son doesn't have to worship his father. But basic respect, that's the least a parent deserves. Breakfast? I asked. No, he said quickly. Actually, Dad, we need to talk. I wanted to smile at the irony. Talk, now. He cleared his throat, still not meeting my eyes. Yesterday, we mentioned future planning. You remember? I said casually, "What about it?" He hesitated. I could see the hesitation turn into calculation. His eyes scanned my face the way a businessman studies a contract. "It would be easier," he said slowly, "if we handled the property now. Transfer it to the family name, so things don't get complicated later." Complicated later? He meant after I die. And what's the rush? I asked, keeping my voice controlled. He shrugged. "You know, just practical stuff," Sana agrees, her lawyer. I froze inside, her lawyer, so they had already involved someone, already discussed strategies, already made plans behind my back. Amir quickly pulled out a folder. "I actually brought some routine papers, nothing serious, just basic transfer drafts. You can sign now and we'll handle the rest." He pushed the folder toward me on the table. Calm, I had to stay calm. I opened the folder slowly. Inside were printed property transfer forms. Legal, binding, prepared by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Routine papers he thought I wouldn't read. My son was trying to trick me like some stranger on the street. "Let me look at these later," I said, closing the folder. Amir's jaw tightened. "Dad, come on. It's not a big deal." Oh, but it was. Too big, too clear, too ugly. I said later. I repeated. For the first time, he looked directly at me, and the expression on his face wasn't love, or worry, or even frustration. It was fear. Fear that his plan was slipping. He grabbed the folder back and muttered, "Fine, but don't delay too long. We'll need your signature this week." He walked away, but I didn't move. That folder was the proof I needed, and now it was time to meet the one person who could protect me from my own children. I reached the lawyer's office around noon. The sky was heavy with clouds, matching the weight sitting in my chest. Mr. Rashid had been my lawyer for over 20 years. Not the young, flashy type. Old, calm, dangerously intelligent. The kind of man who spoke little but understood everything. When I walked into his office, he stood up immediately. "You finally came," he said. "I was expecting you after last night." So he already knew. Or at least suspected. "Sit," he gestured. I sat across from him, and for a moment I didn't know how to start. I wasn't just dealing with legal issues. This was my family, my children, my blood. But pain pushes words out. "They want me to sign property transfers," I said quietly. "They're planning everything behind my back." He nodded, opening a file drawer. "I've been waiting for this." "Waiting for what?" He pulled out a thick, sealed envelope and placed it in front of me. "This," he said, "is your actual will, the one we updated 2 years ago, the one your children know nothing about." I stared at the envelope. "They think everything is in their name after your death," he continued. "They're wrong. You have assets registered under your old business, under private accounts, under trust funds, assets your children don't even know exist." I blinked. "How much?" He leaned back. "Enough that their little property transfer plan is like trying to steal crumbs while there's a whole bakery hidden behind you." A strange feeling washed over me. Relief, anger, confidence. They only know about the house, the land near the old mill, and one bank account. He continued. "They have no idea about the commercial plots, the foreign investments, or your private trust." I felt something tighten in my throat. I had built a fortune, but I had never imagined I would need to hide it from the people I raised. "What do you want to do now?" he asked. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I thought about Amir saying I would die lonely. I thought about Sana agreeing to force my signature. I thought about the cold dinner, the whispers, the disrespect. "I want to protect myself," I finally said, "and I want them to learn what respect means." A slow smile formed on Mr. Rashid's face, subtle but firm. "Then I have an idea," he said. "A legal move that will expose everything and leave them powerless." I leaned forward. "What idea?" He opened a second file, a red one this time. Inside it was a plan so shocking, so strategic, that for the first time in months I felt hope. Once the plan was in place, everything changed. For the first time, I wasn't scared. I wasn't helpless. I wasn't the old father waiting to be pushed aside. I was ready, more ready than my children could ever imagine. The plan required patience and acting. So I acted. I started walking slower around the house. I pretended to forget small things. I asked simple questions twice. I let my hands tremble a little when I picked up cups, and the results were immediate. Iram began speaking to me in a tone people use for children. Uncle, don't strain yourself. Let Amir handle your tasks. Amir stopped asking for permission. He started taking decisions in the house without even informing me. Sana started coming over more, not out of love, but to keep an eye on me, like she was checking a bank account. Their true faces were showing clearly now, and it hurt, not because of what they were doing, but because of how easy it was for them to do it. Every day, they grew more confident. Every day, they became more impatient. Farhan casually asked during lunch, "So, Uncle, when will you finalize the transfers?" Sana said, "You're thinking about it." Thinking. I almost laughed. Instead, I smiled weakly and said, "Soon." The word soon made them relax. They thought I was falling into their trap, but the real trap was mine. Late at night, when everyone thought I was asleep, I quietly moved certain document. Original house deeds, bank papers, old business files, from my home safe into a locked briefcase. Then I drove to Mr. Rashid's office and handed them over. "These are everything thereafter," I told him. "Good," he said. "Keep copies at home, let them think they're winning." The next morning, the copies were in the safe. And just like we expected, Amir checked it. I heard the safe door open early in the morning when he thought I was sleeping. His footsteps were quick, anxious. He shuffled papers, opened drawers, checked shelves. Looking for leverage, looking for control, he came out of my room smiling slightly. He thought he was one step ahead, but he didn't know he was already 10 steps behind. That evening, I watched him whisper to Iram with excitement. He thought the real papers were within reach. Let him think that. The stage was set, the trap was ready, and the players had walked right into the roles I needed them to. The day they decided to force me came on a dull Wednesday afternoon, the kind of day where the sky looks like cement and the air feels heavy. I was in my room, pretending to nap, when I heard the front door slam open. Not in anger, but in urgency. Multiple footsteps, multiple voices. Amir, Sana, Iram, Farhan, my entire betrayal circle, united. I sat up slowly as an old man would and waited. Amir entered my room first, holding a folder thick enough to choke a horse. His expression was tense, the kind that hides anger behind fake concern. "Dad," he said, "we need to talk." Sana stood behind him, arms folded, her face pale, not from fear. No, she was scared I'd refuse, scared the plan would fail, scared of losing money she already imagined in her hands. Iram and Farhan stayed by the door like guards. "What is it?" I asked softly. Amir stepped closer. "We brought the property transfer papers. Everything's ready. You just need to sign." He placed the folder on my side table. Sana added sharply, "Dad, please don't make this difficult." Difficult? Was this how children spoke to a father? I opened the folder slowly. Inside were stacks of documents, prepared, stamped, notarized. Someone had spent weeks on this. "You don't need all this land." Iram said from the doorway, "It will only cause problems." Farhan nodded. "This is the practical thing to do." Then it happened. Amir's voice hardened. All politeness dropped. "Dad, sign it. Now." The room went quiet. My heart hurt. Not from fear, but from the realization that these were truly my children. These were the people I raised. Still, I stayed calm as planned. "What if I don't?" I asked softly. Sana stepped forward. "Then we'll have to involve the authorities, and trust me, Dad, they'll declare you unfit to handle property at your age." That hit me like a slap. Unfit me, they weren't just greedy. They were ready to destroy my dignity. I pretended to tremble, pretended to hesitate, pretended to break. "Fine." I whispered, "Bring me a pen." They relaxed instantly. Their faces brightened. They thought they had one. Amir practically shoved a pen into my hand. "Sign here, and here, and here." I signed slowly, weakly, shakily, but not the papers they thought. Because thanks to Mr. Rashid, these weren't property transfer forms. They were revocation forms and legal complaints cleverly disguised. Documents that would nullify any attempts they made to take my assets. They watched me sign every page with hungry eyes, and when I finished, Amir grabbed the folder with excitement. "Good," he said. "This was for the best." I just smiled. The moment they left my room, I heard whispers, laughter, the clinking of teacups. It was celebration. They thought their victory was sealed with ink. Amir and Farhan talked loudly in the living room, almost bragging. It's done. Amir said, now everything's ours, finally. I could hear the grin in his voice. Farhan replied, I told you he'd break under pressure. Old people don't have the energy to fight. Old people. A sting shot through my chest. Iram added proudly, tomorrow, we'll take the papers to the land office. In a few weeks, his name will be off everything. Sana sighed in relief. Thank God, I was so scared he'd say no. No shame, no guilt, no hesitation. They were relieved that they had bullied their father. I quietly closed my door and locked it. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. No, this was a different kind of trembling. The trembling that comes after witnessing the truth with no filters, the trembling that comes when disappointment turns into finality. I sat on the edge of my bed and thought back to when they were children. When Amir would run behind me, holding my hand tightly so he wouldn't fall. When Sana used to sleep on my chest because she said she felt safest there. When did I become the enemy? When did love turn into entitlement? When did my care become a trophy they wanted to snatch? I took a deep breath and called Mr. Rashid. It's done, I said quietly. Good, he replied. Bring the signed documents to me tomorrow. Then step 2 begins. Step 2, you'll see, he said. We're going to let them believe they've already won. The bigger the hope, the harder the fall. I nodded slowly. That fall was long overdue. Later that evening, when I walked into the living room, the celebration instantly stopped. Cups were put down, smiles wiped away. They watched me cautiously, afraid I might ask for the papers back. I didn't. Instead, I said what Mr. Rashid told me to. I hope you're satisfied. Amir smiled. We just want what's best for you, Dad. I hid my disgust. I hid my pain. I hid the truth, of course. I whispered, I know. They didn't know that with every lie they told, I was getting stronger, steadier. Clearer, I wasn't losing them. I had already lost them. Now I was only removing them from my life piece by piece, and they didn't even see it coming. That night, sleep didn't come easily. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, feeling emptiness claw at my chest. No parent imagines this moment, the moment you realize your children see you not as a parent, but as an obstacle, a stepping stone, a wallet. My phone vibrated on the side table. Mr. Rashid, I answered. Are you ready for the next step? He asked. Yes. I said, though my voice didn't sound like mine. Good. Tomorrow we file everything. After that, you will leave the house for a few days. Give them space to show their true faces without pretending. I closed my eyes. Where will I go? I asked. You won't be alone, he assured. I've arranged everything. After the call ended, the room felt too quiet, too heavy. That's when the emotions poured out, the ones I had been holding in for weeks. I remembered Amir's small hand in mine when he took his first steps. I remembered carrying Sana on my shoulders in the park while she giggled. I remembered the nights I stayed awake taking care of them. The sacrifices, the dreams I had for them, and then I remembered the coldness in their eyes today, the hunger in their voices, the cruel confidence. Tears came before I could stop them. I cried like a man who had lost something irreplaceable, not property, not money, not a home, but something far deeper. My family, my trust, my own children. The pain was unbearable. It was the kind of hurt that sinks into your bones and refuses to leave. But in that pain, something else grew. Strength. Finally, I whispered to myself, they don't deserve me. In the morning, I packed a small bag quietly. Clothes, medicines, phone charger, nothing else. I didn't take a single important document. Let them search. Let them think I left everything behind. Before leaving, I stood in the doorway of my room and looked around one last time. This wasn't a home anymore. It was a battlefield. Downstairs, the house was silent. Everyone was asleep. I walked out slowly, closing the door behind me. That sound, the click of the door, felt like the closing of a chapter. I didn't know what would happen next. I didn't know how far my children would fall. I didn't know how strong I would have to be. But I knew one thing. Once I stepped out of that house, nothing would ever be the same again. I stayed away from the house for 3 days. 3 days of silence. 3 days of reflection. 3 days where my children didn't call me not once, not to ask if I was alive, not to ask where I was, not to ask if I needed anything, But on the fourth morning, everything changed. Amir called, not with concern, not with love, not with worry, but with anger. Dad, where are you? The land office needs your verification signature, and the lawyer is coming today. His voice shook with urgency, the urgency of a plan falling apart. I'm coming, I said calmly, and I did, but not alone. I arrived with Mr. Rashid. We drove straight to his office, where he had already arranged everything. When we entered the meeting room, my entire family was there. Amir, Sana, Iram, Farhan, all dressed neatly, looking excited, expectant, greedy. They didn't even greet me. Amir looked at the lawyer and asked, "Can we begin? We're very busy today." Mr. Rashid didn't answer him. Instead, he opened a thick envelope, the real will. "This meeting," he said slowly, "is for the reading of your father's updated will." Silence, shock, confusion. Amir frowned. "What are you talking about? We just need the verification documents." "No." Mr. Rashid interrupted firmly. "You need to listen." Sana crossed her arms. "Is this necessary? Dad already signed. Those papers have already been legally nullified." Mr. Rashid said, tapping the table, "This is the only valid document concerning your father's estate." Their smiles froze. He began reading. His voice was steady. Every word was a hammer. "I, the undersigned, declare that my children, Amir and Sana, are no longer beneficiaries of my primary estate." Amir's jaw dropped. "Nor are their spouses entitled to any claim or share of my properties, accounts, businesses, or assets." Sana whispered, What is he saying?" "Due to repeated acts of manipulation, coercion, and attempted forceful transfer of property." The room exploded. Amir shot up from his chair. "What the hell is this? Dad, tell him this is a mistake." Sana slammed her hand on the table. "Why are you lying? Dad would never do this." "I didn't say a word." Mr. Rashid continued reading. "All primary assets, including commercial properties, trust accounts, private investments, and deposited funds, shall be placed under a protected trust, inaccessible to the children listed above." They looked at each other like their world was collapsing. Because it was. Furthermore, Mr. Rashid said, "Specific beneficiaries unrelated to the above parties have been assigned." "Who?" Amir shouted. Mr. Rashid calmly closed the file. "Not you." The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush the room. The moment I walked in, the air shifted. Their shock doubled, their anger sharpened, their panic became visible. Amir glared at me as if I were the enemy. "Dad," he said slowly, "tell him he's lying." But I didn't. Instead, I walked to the table, pulled out a chair, and sat down. "I'm not here to argue," I said softly. "I'm here to tell you the truth." Sana leaned forward, her eyes filling with disbelief. "Dad, why would you do this to your own children?" I looked at her, really looked at her. "When did you stop being my children?" I asked. "The day you planned to force my signature? The day you said I'd die lonely? Or the day you tried to take everything I built while I was still alive?" Amir's face went pale. He hadn't expected me to know. How did you hear that?" he whispered. "It doesn't matter." I replied, "What matters is that I did." Mr. Rashid opened another file, a red folder this time. Inside were documents none of them had ever seen. "Your father," he said calmly, "owns far more than the properties you tried to take." He listed them one by one. Foreign investments worth millions, commercial buildings under private trust, shares in businesses they never knew about, 3 overseas accounts, real estate in 2 cities, and a private long-term trust fund protected by law. With every word, their faces drained more and more of color. Finally, I said, "You fought so desperately for the crumbs, while a whole kingdom was hidden from you." Iram spoke up, her voice trembling. "This is impossible. Why didn't you tell us?" I met her eyes. "Because it wasn't yours to know." Amir slammed his fist on the table. "You can't do this." Mr. Rashid calmly said, "He already has, legally and irrevocably." Amir turned to me, his voice shaking between anger and desperation. "Dad, please, we're your children." I nodded. "You were. I corrected, until you tried to destroy me." Sana covered her mouth, tears filling her eyes, not from regret, but from fear of losing the wealth she thought she deserved. I leaned back, inhaling slowly. "You thought I would die lonely," I said quietly, but I won't. I'm surrounded by people who respect me and by a fortune you will never touch." The words struck them like blows. Amir opened his mouth to speak, but before he could Rashid opened the laptop and clicked a folder labeled with one word, evidence. Amir froze. Sana looked confused. Farhan and Iram exchanged nervous glances. What evidence?" Amir asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Mr. Rashid played the first recording. It was the audio from the night I heard them talking. The audio of Amir's voice saying, "Dad's going to die lonely anyway. Let him." Sana's voice followed. "Fine, let the lawyer come tomorrow. We'll make him sign." The room felt like it was suffocating. Amir stumbled back. Dad, we didn't mean." I raised a hand. "Don't lie to me now." Mr. Rashid played the second recording. Amir's voice again. "He won't believe the papers are fake. Old people don't understand documents. Sana, just pressure him. He'll crack. Farhan, once he signs, we can finish everything. And finally, Iram, he can't fight us. He's too old." Sana put her head in her hands, shaking. Amir's face turned red, then white, then red again. Farhan muttered, "This isn't what it looks like." Mr. Rashid interrupted sharply. "It is exactly what it looks like: coercion, manipulation, attempted fraud." Then he turned to me. "Everything is recorded, legally admissible, and every attempt they made has been documented." Amir took a step toward me. "Dad, please don't destroy us." I looked at him, my son, and saw nothing of the boy I raised. "Only a man shaped by greed. You destroyed yourself." I said quietly. Sana cried, "We just wanted security. You wanted control. I corrected, and you were willing to crush me to get it." The room went silent. Mr. Rashid closed the laptop. "As of this moment, your father's assets are legally protected. All of them. You have no access, no claim, no rights." Amir collapsed into a chair. Sana wiped her tears angrily. I stood up slowly. "This is the last time I let you disrespect me." I said, "The last time I let you break my heart, and the last time I allow you near my fortune." Amir whispered, "Dad, don't leave." But I already had. I walked to the door, turned back one last time, and said the words that marked the end of a chapter. "You said I'd die lonely, but I'd rather be alone with respect than surrounded by children who only see me as money." Their faces were frozen masks of regret, fear, and shock. And I walked out of the room, leaving them behind with nothing but the consequences of their own actions. When I finally stepped into my new home, a peaceful lakeside cottage 2 hours away from the city, it felt like I had stepped into another life. The air was lighter, the silence calmer. No footsteps stomping in anger, no forced greetings, no guilt sitting on my chest like a stone. Just me, and the quiet certainty that I had walked away from a battlefield and survived. I spent the first few days doing things I hadn't done in years. I woke up at sunrise. I made my own tea. I sat by the window and watched the water ripple instead of watching my phone light up with demands and complaints. Slowly, I created a new circle around me, one built not by blood, but by choice. Imran visited every weekend. The man had practically become my family. He brought home, cooked meals from his wife, laughed loudly at my old jokes, and reminded me that age didn't mean life had to shrink. Sometimes it meant life finally began. Then there were my neighbors, a retired couple who invited me for evening walks, a young teacher who brought fresh vegetables from her garden, and a widower who had also survived his own kind of family disappointment. We would sit together on the porch and share stories, as if we were old friends who had known each other for decades. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen, not for my money, not for my properties, but for me. There is a strange kind of happiness that comes when you finally choose yourself, when you stop begging for respect, when you stop hoping the people who hurt you will magically change. Life felt simple, soft, real, and just when I started to believe my past had finally settled behind me. My phone buzzed late one evening, a message from my daughter, Ayesha. Only 4 words, "Are you still angry?" I stared at the screen, my heart heavy and unsure. Ayesha arrived 2 days later. She didn't call before coming. She just showed up at my gate, her eyes swollen, clutching her purse like it held her entire world together. I opened the door slowly, unsure of what she expected, forgiveness or permission. "Baba," she whispered. Her voice cracked, and for a moment She looked like the little girl who used to hide behind me during thunderstorms. She stepped inside and immediately started crying. Not soft tears deep, shaking sobs that came from guilt, fear, or maybe both. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm really, really sorry. I don't know what happened to me. I listened to everyone except you. I let Rizwan fill my head. I let my husband pressure me. I forgot who you are. I forgot what you've done for us." I didn't interrupt. I didn't comfort her. I just listened quietly, calmly, the way a man listens after he's been broken too many times to break again. She kept talking. "Baba, I swear I never wanted to hurt you, but Rizwan, he kept saying you were giving everything to strangers. He said we'd be left with nothing. He made me believe you didn't trust us." Her words stung, but they weren't new. I had known for months that Rizwan was the root of the storm. Then, as if summoned by my thoughts, my son's name lit up on my phone. He had been calling for days. I hadn't answered once. I put the phone on speaker before Ayesha could react. Rizwan's voice exploded through the room. "So you're talking to her, but you ignore me. Fine. I know why. Because Imran has poisoned your mind. Everyone is turning you against your own family." It was almost unbelievable even now. Even after everything, my son blamed everyone but himself. "Dad," he yelled, "just give us one more chance. One more. We'll make everything right. We'll take care of you. His voice cracked into desperation. Ayesha wiped her tears and looked at me, whispering the same words. "Baba, please, one more chance." Their voices broken, pleading hung in the air like heavy fog. I stood up slowly, feeling the weight of years pressing on my shoulders, not age, but memories of sacrifices, of nights awake. Of love that flowed one way, and of betrayal that cut deeper because it came from the hands I once held. "Ayesha," I said gently, "I am not angry anymore. I stopped being angry the day I left that house. I'm not here to punish you. I'm here to protect myself." Her tears returned, softer this time. "Then, can we fix this?" I shook my head. "Some truths are too heavy to move. A second chance," I said softly, "means trusting that you won't treat me the same way again. But I can't trust that. Not right now. Not after what happened." She closed her eyes, nodding slowly, painfully. I turned to my phone. Rizwan was still on the line, silent now, listening. "Beta," I said, "I will always love you. That part of me will never change, but I cannot keep people in my life who see me as a wallet instead of a father. I cannot return to a home where I was disrespected, pressured, and treated like a burden." Rizwan whispered, "Please, don't do this." But I had already done it. "I choose peace," I said firmly. "I choose my new life. I choose the people who respect me. I choose myself." Ayesha cried quietly. Rizwan stayed silent, breathing heavy on the line. But I didn't waver. Sometimes walking away is the only way to save what's left of your heart. I stepped outside onto the porch, letting the evening breeze hit my face. A new chapter had already begun. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. I turned back to my daughter and spoke the final words they both needed to hear. Respect matters more than money, and now they know it too.